Oh, a bit wobbly. Hello. Wendy on Wednesdays. Here we are. Yeah, crazy world out there right now, folks. I hope everyone is staying safe and doing what they need. A little bit rushed there, just getting on camera here because I was reading another thread, a groomers group locally in the Maritimes here for New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and the debate going on as to whether they should close or whether they shouldn't. And I think the general consensus is that any non-essential businesses now should close. Non-essential are basically anything that would be considered vanity, so all your hairdressers, even massage therapists. So does that encapsulate groomers? It probably does. Apparently a groomer in Ontario, Toronto I think, was actually asked by the healthcare department as well to close her shop. So it's a matter of us all being in the same boat, and I think most of us are going to anyway, just for the sake of staying safe and protecting our clients and everything else. I mean, dogs don't actually transmit the virus, but they can actually carry it on their hair. So if the lady who's bringing the dog just randomly sneezes and doesn't actually know that they actually have the virus per se, but are actually starting just to develop symptoms and not even recognizing it as that, there's a possibility that that could transmit on the dog or cat's fur. So that's obviously something to be very aware of, and take the measures to keep yourself safe and everybody else safe, especially because there's so many groomers that groom in their own home. And I know an awful lot of groomers as well who also have other health issues, so have already or compromised immune systems. So you have to be careful. Everybody go with your gut. If your gut's saying to close, things will be provided for. There was a big announcement this morning as well that a lot of the banks are going to help with relief and mortgage payments and things like that. There are other things as well. So groomers, if you do have to close and you're worried about income and things, obviously that's the main thing. Is how do we pay our bills through all this? There is some sort of relief apparently coming. I really hope that actually works out to be as good as they say it is. We are basically business as usual here because we are self-isolating all the time anyway. We're stopping people just coming in, and basically if anybody wants to order, because we do have essential services, because dog food and cat food is essential for their well-being as well and needs. So we're still shipping out. The shipping companies are still running as per normal right now. They're just not passing you packages personally or waiting for a signature now. So basically you won't be asked at the door to stand and be breathed on or breathe on them while you're signing your name. We are still doing things here. We've always used the Selectrocide, and that's what we're chatting about tonight, just to keep our surfaces clean. And I am making sure that I'm washing my hands before I'm packing up orders and doing what we can here. Selectrocide was mentioned a few weeks ago in our cleaning and disinfecting video, and I was asked to do a little bit more. We have basically sold out almost of the clobber again within 2 days, and I have another order placed, but the actual manufacturers are also on back order. Not so much for the fact that it's people hoarding this particular product, it's because people are starting to buy this product because it actually works. It is EPA approved to kill the COVID-19. Now, lots and lots of questions arising as well. What's the difference between, because the clobber, this is just mine from the lab, and the general use around that I have this one done up, but this is how it comes with the spray top on the top. You fill it with water and it's ready to go. That gives you a solution active after 30 minutes to use at 100 parts per million, and that will kill COVID-19 on contact after 10 minutes as per EPA standardized testing. The manufacturers know that the chlorine dioxide will actually kill it a lot quicker than that. Their general thought is that basically because of how chlorine dioxide actually works, and it's an oxidizing cleaner as opposed to something that has to settle down and actually work its way in, that basically, because once it oxidizes, hits the air, that goes in, penetrates the cells and blast them apart from the inside. So they say within 90 seconds it can actually kill it. So that's pretty impressive. You can just get these ready to use, no worrying about dilution or anything else like that, and that's the easy one. The difference between using this as against bacteria and against viruses, because bacteria are living. Bacteria will continue to grow, and through getting air and moisture in that, bacteria will feed on any organic matter, and on water as well, because there is lots of different bits and pieces in water, just even regular tap water. So that will actually continue to help feed bacteria, and they can grow. So the likes of your mixing bottles, if you're a dog groomer, or even if you're just shampooing your dog at home and you have your designated mixing bottle that you use, you should sanitize that, because you don't want bacteria growing in that bottle that you can then transfer in the shampoo onto your dog's coat. You go, dog's awful itchy now, I wonder why. Maybe because the bottle that you used to put the product on is absolutely minging. And you can actually disinfect with this straight as it is. Spray it into it, spray it around, swish it around, and just let it air dry. You don't need to rinse this stuff. Basically let it air dry, because it does all its work while it's actually evaporating. There's no nasty residue or smell or anything else like that, so that's the good way. Or you can actually dilute that down to 5 parts per million, because 5 parts per million is actually all you need for bacteria. Now to get that, there's a few different ways that we actually sell the Selectrocide, but just to go over the bacteria being living. Now viruses are actually dead, so you're going, well, if they're dead, how can they live? Well, they basically live because once they actually interact, once they get inside living cells. And of course the COVID-19 is the one that wants to get into our cells. And the virus is actually called COVID-19. The actual disease, the disease is COVID-19. The actual virus is called SARS-CoV-2. So if you hear a couple of those and think there's a couple of different strains or something going on, it's actually not, it's the same thing. Basically, with COVID-19, it's a single strand positive sense RNA virus. So the single strand, if you actually, you've seen in biology class, on movies, on CSI or whatever, when they're looking at DNA through the microscope or whatever, and it's usually these twisted double strands, like a little ladder. Well, with a virus, this one has only got one strand. So that basically it can't do anything on its own except sit there. But it doesn't mean that it can't actually do something once it's activated and gets inside your bloodstream. So another bit of research this afternoon I did, apparently it can live on inanimate objects for up to 9 days. Don't know the absolute truth in that. I'm not professing to be any genius or wild mad scientist to know how to prove that. But that would be an insanely long time. And also incredibly scary, which is probably why the whole world's shutting down. So what we want to do is clean it, get rid of it, kill the dead thing. Sounds a bit daft, but we want to eradicate that so that basically we blow that little thing up from the inside out, which Selectrocide does, and get rid of it. So basically what we suggest to do with it is the clobber, obviously, that's the 100 parts per million. Mix that up, use that straight away. So if you're just cleaning down and everything, your general stuff with your just general whatever soap and water mix or whatever you're using for your general cleaning, I would suggest not to be using any nasty chemicals, because you never want to actually mix a lot of different chemicals together. So you don't want to be doing like a peroxide and a bleach and something else, because the off-gassing from that can actually be more harmful than anything else. Just from the chemical reactions from two different things. So your ordinary soap and water mixture followed with this, and that's basically going to nuke it for you. Couple of different ways to actually get this. As I say, that's the spray ready to use. We also have brought in the 2L100. So this is a pouch, so it's basically double the amount of this once you mix it up. Oh, sorry, I knocked that. There's Dimitri going. So even though, and I did actually check this with the manufacturers today as well, because I didn't actually have this one before. I'd never carried this until this last order, but I thought that might be a nice intermediate one to actually have for people who want a little bit more but don't want to actually do a lot of the dilution again and just want to use it full strength. It actually does say on this, does it say on this or does it say on, might say on the back, it does say on the back, it says use solution within 72 hours of generation. Now that, and I verified this with the manufacturer, that does not have to be done. Basically that regulation, or not regulation, that sort of requirement, request, direction, thank you, direction is based on whenever they are working along with standards for clinical diagnostics. So whenever they're using it in the lab, or whether they use it on surgical implements, whether they're using it on feeding things or whatever, this product is actually being used right across the whole industry, whether it's in food preparation, whether it's in wineries, breweries, hospitals, vet clinics, feedlots, sterilizing, all sorts of stuff. So I asked him, in pertaining to us pet industry people, in our pet stores, in our daycares, in our grooming salons, as to whether that has to actually be effective with that, or, whether it's going to be null and void. No, was the answer I was given, and you are actually fine in for another couple of days. So you could actually have this mixed up, and away you go. Handy one to mix up, throw it right into the mop bucket and do that final rinse off as your disinfecting rinse, with especially in your daycare runs and things like that. And then, as it just says, leave it wet, let it stay wet, and let it just evaporate, and done. You don't have to rinse it. You don't have to wear any special stuff at this point. The only time you'd have to wear a very breathing apparatus that they recommend, and that's only under ordinary occupational health and safety standards, is if you were using this in a high pressure sprayer, like inside a feed bin. Not applicable to us, so nothing to worry about. So again, you can just put that straight in. And actually another thing that I got this for, and I'm going to use this for, is in my ultrasonic cleaner. I have a 2.5 litre ultrasonic cleaner that I'd use for blades and scissors and stuff like that. Not that I even groom anymore, but I have a couple of dirty dogs that get the odd clip now and again, and I only usually use it about maybe once every 6 months now, or maybe once a year. Because as I say, I don't do any grooming, but that's going to be the beast that's going to kill everything and anything that's on that and clean those blades up nice and shiny. So ultrasonic cleaners, that would be a great mix to put straight in there. Again, that's giving you 100 parts per million, and even if it's just for bacteria or something like that you're killing, you could dilute that 5-to-1 as well. So basically 1 part of this, 4 parts of water, and there you've got a 20 part per million ratio, and that's good to annihilate a lot. And if you want it to go down to the 5 parts per million, that's just going to go even longer. So the big boy that we've had this, we've done Selectrocide for, oh my gosh, it's almost 10 years. And it's sad how little this has actually cottoned on until now. Because sanitation is a thing that should be taken a lot more seriously. And especially with the general zoonotic diseases that can be transferred between dogs and people. Quite a few of them. Google that one. I'm not going to go into them tonight. But with the 2L500, basically, this is another one that we always have had. And I've had this mixed up sometimes, and it's lasted me an awful long time. It's still been effective at doing what I need it to do, even at a very, very high dilution rate, or a very low part per million. And if I'm worried about the efficacy of it depleting because it's been sitting for a while, I'm really not going to worry too much, and just going to make a slightly stronger solution of it to compensate for that. And I have been told that that's actually fine to do. So just to give you an idea, the 2L500, basically what that means is 2 litres at 500 parts per million. There you go. Very high concentration of it. This one will be a wee bit stinkier whenever you mix that up. And the way that you do it, fill it up with water, let it sit for an hour or two, I think it is 2 hours, and decant it into an empty 2-litre pot bottle. Store it in the dark, so underneath the cupboard, or underneath the sink, or in a cupboard or whatever, in the dark. And make sure you mark on the bottle what it is. Safe away from kids. And basically use it as you need. They do send, they don't send them, I print them off and send them out with you whenever you order them. But if you also want to look up any of this stuff up yourself, their direct website that you can go to is selectivemicro.com. Let me just make sure that's right. Yeah, selectivemicro.com. So selectivemicro.com. It's Selective Micro Technologies in Dublin, Ohio, that actually makes this stuff. So this is where it actually comes from. And thankfully, even with the border from the US border being closed, that will be an essential on a truck, which aren't being shut down. So we should still get our stuff in probably within about 2 weeks, I would hope, if they get theirs back in stock in a few days as they have hoped. Going back to the big boy itself, basically 2 litres of chlorine dioxide solution at a concentrate of 500 parts per million. Shake your pouch gently before use. So whenever it's all done, and then decant that in. Now, just to do the math on this, because everybody looks at it and goes, $69.99. Oh, it's awfully expensive. Oh, I can buy bleach for less than that. Yeah, you can, but bleach isn't going to kill an awful lot in comparison. And also as well, the trihallomethanes or THMs or off-gassing that actually comes off bleach is more detrimental to your immune system by breathing it in than it is by killing any germs on the counter. So think about that for a second. This is your health you're taking into consideration. And if you're taking that into consideration, you actually should do a little bit more homework as to what you're using. Just saying. With this though, the $69.99, if you were to mix that up to get your 5 parts per million for your everyday sanitation. So say you were doing it from scratch. What I'd recommend is doing either your clobber or the 2L100, mixing that up and using that full strength at 100 part per million. Get that beast done with. Get rid of it. And then for maintenance and continuation, as per their guidelines as well, a 5 part per million solution is all you need to then do your nightly wipe downs of your counters, your little spray over your keyboard even, you can do it with. And if you were doing that on that would give you 52 gallons of product, and you do the math on that, and it's $1.30 for a gallon. Now you tell me that that's too expensive for your and everybody else's health, and I will leave you for the night. Okay, I'm not reading any comments, there's none saying that. But yeah, that's not expensive for the efficiency that it actually is going to give you and your peace of mind. So we do still have stock. We have 1 clobber at this point left in stock. We have about 10 or so, I think, of the 2L100s. And only about 3 or 4 of the 2L500s. That's not the big seller, but I know that further down the line, when people are using more of this, as they've been buying it like crazy and understand and appreciate its effectiveness, then they usually come back for the 2L500, and sometimes that will last them a year, because they'll only use that whenever it's the deep cleaning cycle that they're doing, if that's once a week, once a month. At this point, everybody's going frantic and kind of doing it once a day. But whatever needs to happen, needs to happen. More to keep you safe and comfortable with knowing what you're doing is the right thing. And because the less stress that you can have on yourself, that means the stronger your immune system is going to be, because worrying about all these things actually depletes your body of nutrients, stresses you out, lowers your immune system, and what do? Get sick. So we don't want anybody to do that. So take your precautions, do all your lovely stuff. Please relax. Please don't get into the fear mongering. Please be careful about what you're reading on Facebook. Please research everything I've said. And be nice to each other, and just look after yourselves. Cuddle your puppies if you're stuck at home. Enjoy some time with your family. Bake a cake, read a book, have a bath. Be nice to yourself. This will pass, and we will survive. The human race has been through lots worse than this, and they'll not take us down without a fight. So we'll see you next week then in that matter. All right, take care. Thanks a lot for joining us. All the best. Bye now.